Melvin, thanks, man.
There's always some extra parts when I put them back together. I don't know why. But you go ahead on.
Redoing this oil test because my other gauge is actually seems to be broken. The gauge is actually off, so got a different gauge, starting over from 0 to check the oil level. So let's start her up and see what we get. There's an extra hole down there. That might be the problem. Got the wrong cooler in the jacket there. See what I'm saying? The very middle. There's 3 holes, bottom like a triangle, but that very middle bottom hole. You got the 2. Those are the oil in and out. That one goes back to the pump. That one goes to the oil pan. All right, so we're back on the truck. I've been playing around with this oil pressure because it's not to my liking. When I end up doing, I changed the oil pump to make sure that the oil pump was definitely good. Although I believe it was good, but just for peace of mind, because it's got oil pressure, but it's not in a satisfactory number. It's just hovering under 10, yeah, like under 8, and that is not satisfactory in my opinion of what this should be. So what I ended up doing was I replaced the pump that didn't pump, replaced it, torqued it down. That didn't solve the problem. And then I had a thought that maybe there's a problem with the oil cooler. So since this was a rebuild, it's quite possible that they either used a different oil cooler or somebody before put a different one in. But I came across some information online, and this is a storm block. As you saw, I think I showed you already in one of my photos. If not, I'll put one up in this video so you can see what I'm talking about. So on the storm block, there's an extra hole right here, but it's on the block, and this supposedly goes to back to the oil pump, but there's also a hole on the block in this area here, and that's supposed to, I think, goes to the oil pan. Now this is the one that I pulled out of this truck, or this motor. It doesn't have that hole, but it has the hole for the pump return, but it doesn't seem right because all of the replacement coolers, they don't have that hole, and then they have this hole here. And I came across a lot of other folks online who was having oil pressure issues, and they had a similar configuration, and they had to replace it, and they replaced it with one that looks like this. So I'm gonna do the same thing, and I got my fingers crossed that I should solve the problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep this. I'm gonna wipe it down. It doesn't look too bad, but I'll wipe it down. Probably got the residue because it's a piece of metal. So probably got that residue of oil on there. So I'm gonna wipe that down, and I'm just gonna put the gaskets up there, torque it down, and put the oil back in and see where we're at. All right, so the everything's back together over here. I double checked everything, double checked the oil pan bolt, and put oil in it. Let's crank her up. Is that the hole for the oil galley plug? All right, I finally got my plugs in, and I immediately went to surgery to get it into position. Now, the correct procedure was to take the cam out, but I said that's a little bit ridiculous to do all that work on removing everything just to put that plug in. So what I did, I just put the 620 retaining compound, and then used a magnet to bring it in, push it against with a punch, hold it, bring it up to the hole. Once I got it to the hole, I came in with my finger and I fingered it in, and then it pretty much was already sitting where I needed to, but then I felt it sit flush, and then all I did was I tapped it ever so gently with my love hammer here, and these, well, not really this one, mainly this one because it has a bigger surface, and just slowly tapped it in. All right, so hopefully that should be the problem solved, because it was losing pressure. But it has pressure, but it doesn't have enough pressure. So from understanding it, it looks as if it was coming through that hole and coming out, when it should actually go down and then go someplace else. So let's put it back together. I'm gonna start tightening everything up, because by the time I go and put oil in here, that should be dry, that sealing compound. So let's get it cracking. All right, back together, belts on, everything is torqued. So we are done for the day. It's 12:54, 1 p.m. and the sun is starting to reach me here, so I need to get out of the sun because I'm already overheating. And I just turned this thing on, put oil in it, and I ran it. And I still have low oil pressure at idle. This thing is only saying under 10, but when I bring the throttle up, of course it goes up to above 20 as the throttle goes higher. So at this point, I do not know what the deal is with this thing, and I'm pretty much calling it quits. I'm not gonna keep playing with this thing. I'm done. Okay, so the problem is, well, I'll turn it on in a second, but that PSI is too low, in my opinion, at idle. So I need to and I'm not gonna look up this thing any more than what I've already done. So let's see, I'll show you. All right, got my temporary intake on, and let's crank her up. Make sure everything is good. All right, here we go. Test number 359. I didn't change the oil cooler and put the original oil cooler back in. So let's check the pressure, see what we get. Cranking it up. All clear. Yes, we are. Here we go. So after that little test there, I mean, took the time to swap out the original oil cooler because there's an extra hole here on the aftermarket one. Supposedly this goes back to the pan and that one goes to the pump. So I was like, you know what, let's just switch it and see what happens. But it didn't do no real effect. So at this point, I'm gonna call this motor shot, and I would recommend getting well, not an aftermarket, a used motor confirmed to be good. Like you see people, their truck is rusted out or they crashed their truck, but the motor ran good and they can show the motor ran. I'd rather have a motor that is confirmed good running instead of one that someone claims is built and who rebuilt it and did they know what they're doing, because whoever did this thing didn't know what they're doing. So we live and we learn. So I'm not even gonna play with this anymore. I'm gonna start selling off this motor and looking to get a replacement motor.